European parks are so gorgeous. I can't believe it. This is why I always try to find European parks, simply because there's so much history in them. Yes, they're man-made, but at the same time you can tell that the trees are old, the buildings were made for a certain purpose centuries ago, and there's just so much to explore. I love it. Hey guys, and welcome to beautiful Belgium. In this video, we're going to actually be exploring an iconic place here in the city of Brussels, which is called l'Abbey of La Cambre, which is located in the Maelbeek Valley in between le Bois de la Cambre and the Ixelles ponds. And the reason that we're visiting this park is because it is really beautiful. It's exactly the kind of park that you would expect when you are visiting a European park. There's a monastery, there's a church, there's a bunch of really iconic buildings that are used nowadays for schools and other beautiful statues, and so many things to just visit right here. So I think without any further ado, let's explore. La Cambre Abbey is a former Cistercian abbey. It's a Catholic parish of the Archdiocese of Mechelen-Brussels and home to a community of Norbertine canons, while other parts of the monastery house the headquarters of the Belgian National Geographic Institute and La Cambre, a prestigious visual arts school. The abbey, which is now a beautiful public park, was founded around 1196. It was suppressed during the French Revolution. Most of today's buildings date from the 18th century. Only the church, the refectory, and the wing of the capitular hall maintain their medieval character. This may look like a simple body of water in the middle of the park, and it even actually kind of resembles a pool, but it is much more than that. This stream right here is the Maelbeek, which means in Dutch the mill stream, and it is a very important stream because it actually is a body of water that goes through different regions of Brussels, going from Etterbeek to Saint-Just to Schaerbeek, and it even joins La Zenne. And yeah, it is really kind of cool to actually see a real body of water that was used back in the day for the mills and probably for even drinking. But yeah, now it is just a beautiful decoration, and it still is a source of water, but seeing it right here kind of once again reinforces this fact that this park is filled with history. Even though the Maelbeek stream is an important body of water, it was vaulted in 1872 when there were 58 ponds that used to run along the creek. Today only 6 remain: the Abbey of La Cambre, 2 in Ixelles, 1 in Parc Léopold, 1 in Place Marie-Louise, and finally the last one in Parc Josaphat. The source of the Maelbeek is pretty nice looking and is kind of a centerpiece to the Cambre Abbey Park, with a bunch of benches that overlook it and make for a very pleasant place just to enjoy the fresh air and quiet of the park. This park is definitely much more than a park. After all, going through this nature, I can't help but notice all these really cool and interesting buildings, like this one behind me, which is the École nationale supérieure des arts visuels de la Cambre, which is a visual art school that has existed here since 1926. Nowadays, it has over 700 students with 18 different departments, ranging from architecture to sculpting to drawing to a bunch of visual art mediums like design and a bunch of editing and different things really that have to do with visual arts. But how cool is this that this building is so old and it's still used nowadays? And imagine yourself going to the school, and at lunchtime or during a break between classes, you can actually come out here and spend some time in the park with nature and look at the beautiful artwork. I think that this is definitely the dream setting that any school would ever be in. Originally, the school was founded as the Institut Supérieur des Arts Décoratifs and became known as La Cambre. In 1980, La Cambre was divided into 2 separate institutions: the École nationale supérieure des arts visuels, INSAF, which is a visual arts school, and the Institut supérieur d'architecture de la Communauté française de Belgique, ISACF, which is the architecture school. Both institutions belong to the French community of Belgium, and INSAF is still housed at the Abbey, while the ISACF stopped existing in 2009 when all the architectural schools integrated universities, and the ISACF merged with 2 other institutes into the Université Libre de Bruxelles. This place wouldn't be called l'Abbey de la Cambre if there wasn't an actual abbey in this park, and the building behind me is that abbey, and it is a really gorgeous building. It's beautifully preserved. When you go inside, there's a ton of paintings on the walls, sculptures, and I love looking also at all the glass work that they've done. There's just nothing that compares to what people could do centuries ago. I just feel that maybe nowadays it would be too expensive to create such a building. And at the same time, looking at this type of architecture, can really see where a lot of movies, video games, comic strips, books took their inspiration from, because when you look at them, you almost feel like you're in a castle. This is really godlike, and I understand why all these buildings are built this way, because it almost feels like it's out of this world, and at the same time it just makes this park so gorgeous. The Abbey Church shows the transition between the primitive Gothic and the flamboyant Gothic styles. Its northern part dates from the 15th century, whilst its southern part has retained its original roof and 2 windows from the early 14th century. After the abbey closed as a monastic community, the buildings were used successively as a military hospital, a cotton manufacturer, a poorhouse, and a military school. Since June 30th, 1953, La Cambre Abbey has been designated a historic site. If you like super aesthetically pleasing places, well, this is the area of the park that you should visit. Basically, this type of park is called le Parc à la Française, which translates into the French-style garden, which is a type of architectural landscaping which tries to make everything symmetrical and kind of tries to blend nature with the symmetry and the cleanliness of the whole place. And this was actually invented back in the 17th century. And the place that is actually the best example for this kind of landscaping is le Château de Versailles in France. But whenever I see these kind of rectangular shapes and super well designed oval-like looking trees, it kind of makes me think of video games like Super Mario Brothers. But either way, this place is really royal, and when you're walking through it, you can really feel that you're in Europe, and it almost feels like you are walking in a castle-like place. So it is gorgeous and well worth it. In this particular garden, we have a beautiful dual staircase that leads up to the first level of the Jardin à la Française. This particular staircase is really interesting to see, with a bunch of decorations ornamenting the walls, making this place look even more royal. As for the French formal garden, even though based on symmetry and the principle of imposing order on nature, this garden went beyond those concepts. The reason that they were done in this fashion is because they were symbols of political, monarchical power, with one quote stating that these kind of places were simply built to impress. Speaking of art and power, one notable statue in this garden is the statue of Camila Monier, who was a Belgian writer, poet, and journalist. He was a member of the symbolist La Jeune Belgique group, but his best known works are realist. When you're walking through these kind of parks that have existed for many centuries, well, a lot of people don't realize that some of the structures that are in them are actually more important than they actually seem, like this one right behind me, which was built in 1781, and it is dedicated to a man of the church who lived in the 13th century called Boniface, that after his death was actually considered a saint. And this was actually built during a time where this park was much larger, because through the centuries there was a big urbanization of this area, so the park got actually sliced into two. So the surface of it became much smaller and a lot of residential areas got built. But this is one of the structures that prevails from a very long time ago, and it is gorgeous. Saint Boniface is pretty small and probably overlooked by many visitors, being in a more secluded area of the park, and overlooks the central court, which gives this hillside location a very serene feeling. The reason that this location is somewhat secluded from the rest of the park is because in 1907, in anticipation of the Solbosch Universal Expo, Avenue Émile Duret was pierced right through the estate, and with the urbanization of the south of Ixelles and the creation of new roads, the chapelle suddenly ended being on the wrong side of the street and somewhat forgotten. Isn't this park gorgeous? I found this little area that looked so symmetrical, which I kind of felt that was in line with the whole beauty of this park, and I thought that this would be the perfect place to actually end it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed coming on this visit of the beautiful Abbey in Brussels and looking at the different structures and all the history that this park has. And if you did enjoy it, please be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment too, let me know what you think, and let me know if there's other places in Brussels that you'd like me to visit. I'm pretty sure I can make a video happen. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.